So yeah, I'm gonna talk a little bit about some composition work that I've done. Before I do that, I'll just kind of introduce myself. So my name's Duncan Lyall, and I am primarily a bass player. I play double bass and bass guitar, and I play all sorts of different styles of music, but I think most people kind of know me from playing in the folk scene, playing in the Scottish folk scene and beyond the Scottish folk scene as well, Irish and English as well. But I play all different styles of music. It's one thing about being a bass player is you do end up kind of playing a lot of different styles. And I suppose some of my kind of compositions are really kind of influenced by the fact that I'm influenced by a lot of different styles of music and play a lot of different styles of music. But the piece that I'm going to be talking about today is a piece called "Wind in the Trees," and it was written for the Celtic Connections Festival in Glasgow. I'm just going to, rather than just looking at my face, you can actually have a look at some of the things that I'll be talking about. So if anyone wants to know anything more about me, I do have a website, duncanlyall.com, and you can see it is spelled Lyall. And there's a little bit about kind of the different people that I've played with and albums that I've recorded on, and there's some video stuff there that you're welcome to check out in your own time. This tab up here that says Milestone is actually in this page. This is showing off Milestone, which is my new album that I just released, and the track that we're going to be listening to was the opening track, or is the opening track on the album. And also down at the bottom as well is my previous album, which was called Infinite Reflections. And both of these albums they've been recorded following live performances at the Celtic Connections Festival. The first one was back in January 2012. Infinite Reflections was back in 2012, and I recorded the album after that, the following year. And then Milestone, it's just been released. This was first played at Celtic Connections Festival in 2019. Rather than sort of waffle on too much more about any of that, there's just a little bit of a background to where some of my music has kind of come from. Let's just have a listen through. I'm just going to play this track, Wind in the Trees, and we can have a listen to it. And I will talk. I've got lots of things I can say about it, about how I wrote it, and some of the things that I did in order to kind of get to the place where it is just now. But as Keith said, please have a think. If anyone has any questions at any point, I'd love to hear them and be kind of sent off on a tangent and talk about the things that you really want to talk about. So I am going to play you this opening track from Milestone, Wind in the Trees. But I'll talk a little bit about how I came to write that piece. As I say, I performed first at Celtic Connections back in 2019. I'd actually been asked by the festival to write some new music, a whole concert worth of music, and like I often do when I try and start writing music, I find that it's incredibly difficult to get started. on, particularly when you've just got the blank canvas in front of you. You don't really know, you don't really kind of know what you're going to do. You've maybe got a couple of ideas in your head, but really it's kind of that blank canvas thing. And I find it's almost the hardest thing is getting started. And that was kind of what happened with this. I was trying lots of different ideas. I was sitting down at the piano, picking up a guitar, picking up different instruments, trying to get started. And I think for me, I need to kind of go through a bit of a process of just coming out with, ideas that maybe aren't going to make the cut, but just trying to get that kind of get the stuff out of the way before you kind of start coming up with the stuff that you really like and you want to use. But that had been going on for quite a long time for me, and I just didn't feel like I was getting started. And I was getting a little bit kind of worried and a bit anxious about the fact that I had a deadline I had to write for the festival, and I had to write a whole 45-50 minutes worth of music and rehearse it all up. So I felt like the time was really becoming a bit of a pressure, and one evening when I was trying to think, right, what am I going to do? How am I going to get this started? At the time I lived in a flat in Glasgow, in Denniston, top floor flat and tenement flat, and in the back garden we had this big tree, and it was a really windy evening, and I had the kitchen window open and I could hear the sound of the wind in the tree, and I thought, that's really kind of soothing kind of sound. I was trying to kind of as I say, I was getting a bit anxious about writing the music, and the sound of the tree was really helping me calm down. And then I had the idea of, like, why don't I sit down at the piano and listen to the sound of that tree and just see what happens. So I had a little studio set up in the back bedroom, and actually what I did was I got a couple of microphones and stuck them at the window so that I could actually record the sound of the tree, and I often work with headphones on like I do just now, and I could have the sound of the tree in the headphones, and that's what I did. And I recorded that wind, and it's actually on the track. You probably or hopefully kind of heard it throughout the track. Definitely it's more obvious kind of at the end and at the very beginning, but the sound of the wind is kind of going through much of the track, particularly at the end, as I said there. That's the sound of, that was the actual kind of tree. That was actually when I first wrote this. I recorded it, and that's actually what I was listening to, and I thought it worked really well with the music, and it just kept it in the track. So the whole track starts with the sound of that wind.